So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular public meeting of this 10th of August, 2015. And to start off, since there are no welcomes or mayor's announcements, except maybe to encourage people to participate in all the activities that are linked to the International Kite Festival, and at the celebrations of the 15th of August, which is a good mix together. Opening word, dear colleagues, give us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So now it's the call to order. Confirmation of quorum. Do we have quorum? And declarations of conflict of interest, none. So without further ado, adoption of the agenda, moved by Councillor Dallaire, seconded by Councillor Cormier. On the question, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. So it is adopted, carried as presented. And we're going to start with, first of all, item 7.1, inquiries by council members to the Kodiak Regional RCMP. Does anyone have questions for the sergeant? Sergeant, yes, I think that's what we can call him, a sergeant, Mr. Como. Any questions for Mr. Como tonight? Mr. Godet. It's not a question, but a comment. Thanks to the police officers who lately, due to the commemorations yesterday, who were there for the blue helmets and the peacekeepers. Mr. George was there and for other occasions, so thank you for having been there. Thank you. So if there is nothing else, Mr. Como, I guess we can set you free, though you are also free to stay with us if you so desire. So, 7.2 presentation. It's Destination 2040. Mr. Stéphane Thibodeau from the city of Moncton, and Mr. Desjardins, who will assist him. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. As it's on the agenda, we're here to present the final report of Destination 2040. It's a report that comprises almost 1,000 pages. I think it was circulated in the month of May in the room and at Council, and we are here tonight to present it. It's a study that lasted over the last 2 years. It's a comprehensive study of sustainable transportation. It was made in collaboration with the municipality of Riverview, Moncton, in partnership also with the Department of Transportation. So the presentation that we're going to see tonight is essentially a presentation that's similar to one that councillors saw at the 3 council meetings on the 14th of May. The difference tonight is that we will be asking you to adopt the final report. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing Mr. Stéphane Thibodeau, who's responsible for transportation in the for the city of Moncton. Stéphane was the director, the leader of the project of the last 2 years. And this project actually has been a success, and he was basically, Stéphane was the key to this success. So without further ado, Stéphane. Hello, councillors from Dieppe. I'm really happy to be here with you. First of all, I'd like to have a little bit of water, and I have it here because I have a little bit of a cold. It's a summer cold, and I'm coughing, and if I cough, it's not because of you, it's because of a cold that I have. So first of all, as Tony mentioned earlier, without having the collaboration of the city of Dieppe, the city of Moncton, and the city of municipality, and the collaboration of the province, this document could certainly not have had the success it had. So what I'd like to do today is to give you an overview of each step that we went through. And here it shows the steps that we went through. It's basically an overview of the study, what we want to do, where we want to go, and then the present situation, what kind of system we have for the region, and also the public consultation. That was really the part that helped us to obtain a vision that we really wanted to have for the next 30 years. Afterwards, it was looking forward, then the recommended actions, then the plan implementation, and then consideration. So first of all, the study was started in 2013. We started to discussions with the city of Dieppe, the province, and the city of Dieppe around 2008 to start our sustainable transportation plan for the community. So we started the study in 2013. We wanted to end it in a year, but with the problems concerning the survey and all the information that we received from our consultants, it lasted a little longer. Basically, the extra year helped us to get a document that is really that is going to bring us into the future for the system of transportation. Originally, our plan was really to look at a multimodal plan. It's not just a question of having a car. We always have legs, and we like to ride bicycles, and we have a good public transport. So how can we work it out so that all these different aspects are linked together so that we have something that's unique and that will give us the opportunity to connect them together? The second aspect was the sustainability. And it was also a joint study. It was a long term, it's 30 years. There's also a question of having a study brand. There are basically three visions that are created. The study will provide the tri-community with a sustainable transportation network. There's a vibrant mixed transportation network, an urban pedestrian-oriented environment, an interconnected multimodal system, a lower regional carbon footprint. So how could we work it out to have less of a carbon footprint? Today, the current condition, and this you see here is the 2013 situation, we can see that we are really attached to our cars. 88% of our travel is by car. What's important to see is that 72 or 74% of their citizens are really basically attached to our cars, and it's just a one person. So we don't really move many people with our cars. This gives us a real look at the situation and helps us to see how we can go. And then afterwards, we have to see what is we see that approximately 40% of the travel time basically is for work and school. To go, it's in the car to go to school or to go to work. For public transport, we can see from this surveys is approximately 37% go to work, 7% to school, 26% for home. What we wanted to show is that 4,200 people use public transport in a day, and that represents just 1.2% of all the daily trips for the region. So we have the opportunity to increase this percentage. Just to show what kind of demography we have here, the people who use the transit, 58% of all transit patrons don't have a driver's license. In other words, they don't have any other available way of traveling, so they need to have this transit system. And 42% have a vehicle. Here we wanted to see what was going on in our region with 340,000 total trips per day in our community, 340,000. We wanted to find out what were the peak hours of the day. And so we basically built our roads basically just for 2 hours of the day. This is when everybody moves. Afterwards, most of the time, there's no congestion on the streets and there's no problem. So what can we do to reduce these 2 peak hours per day? It's not a question of widening the streets. Maybe it's a question of asking employers to have employees work earlier or work later, so that not everybody arrives on the streets at the same time. We can start at 6 o'clock or go later. So, I mean, basically, we're building our system for 2 peak hours. Here, we wanted to know what was going on with the population. If you have a population, a growth of approximately 14% since 2008. So there's a good increase of population here, but also in the greater Moncton region, there's an increase of the population of 9.7% since 1996. So we wanted to see what was basically the target that we were aiming at for 2040, and we figured that an increase of 1.5 annually would be okay for our region. So when we knew what kind of growth we had for the population, well, we wanted to make sure that in our region, where is development going to be needed? Where do we concentrate growth in the region? So with the urban planners, the economic planners, we looked at our maps and we saw where things were going to be growing. In order to have a specific direction, we wanted to know what the public we wanted to see what the public wanted to know. So there were surveys, there was consultations. There was a very important public consultation, and also we had also a joint council with councillors, planners. It's the first time that we had 3 communities meet in order to establish a vision, and it was very impressive. It helped us it helped guide us to where we wanted to go. There was also participation in meetings through our website, and also with other people in our region, with leaders and organizations like Bécari, those who really want to walk, to find out where they really wanted to see us go and have them help us to build a vision. There was a public consultation trying to reach out to the residents. It was a one-day meeting. It was to help them to participate, to give them a voice. There was a Dieppe, Moncton, Riverview, so people came with bicycles, there were walkers, there were people who came with cars, and we encouraged citizens to tell them what they wanted, how they wanted to see their transportation system change, and also we asked them to come and participate at the visioning exercise in the capital. There were more than 100 people, actually, who came to this visioning exercise at the capital, and the citizens who were there, I mean, there were children, there were seniors, people that had mobility problems, there were visual eye problems. So we had a good group of different types of people who gave us their ideas for the changes in the system. There were also public consultations on the web. We had created a website, and this gave us a lot of answers. People joined it. We had approximately 340 or 239 answers online. This was also the common responses, basically. basically people were saying that people wanted to find a different way of traveling in our community without using a car. This is the vision statement. We're not going to read the whole thing, but basically at the end of the day, it's the second line that gives us the direction that we want to do. It's basically in sustainably, safely, seamlessly across Moncton, Dieppe, and Riverview, and to create a quality multimodal transportation system. And at the end of the day, this is what we want. We want to have something that's multimodal and with equality, that's going to be equal for everybody. Not just concentrating on the cars, but also for the people who want to walk, for people who want to ride the bicycle, and people who want to use the public transit system. So we established 7 priorities, basically, to support the vision of the future. These are basically the basically higher densities. For example, the center of Dieppe, how can we build up the center of the Dieppe? How can we build in the downtown area rather than spreading out? The question also of traveling less. In other words, instead of you can carpool, there can be park and ride, there can be use of infrastructure efficiently. There could be a dedicated lane for example, for public transport, and also sidewalks for walkers. There would be multimodal networks. They have to be comprehensive. Can everybody share these networks in a safe fashion, and that in a manner that would be acceptable to everybody? Afterwards, there's the integrated and connected networks. That means that can we be connected equally, for example, from Riverview to Moncton and from Riverview to Dieppe. There has to be safe and easy access. So if we look at the forward, what kind of what we wanted to do to improve the system, a system that would be equal for everybody. It's not something that's easy, because right now just 1% of the population uses the public transport, maybe 2%. So we wanted to increase this to 7% by 2040. We have approximately 2.4 million travelers in public transport a year. If we go to 7%, it's almost 14 million. So that means it's a big step for us to manage our system, but it would give us the opportunity to improve our system. This, looking forward, cycling and trail networks, if we don't do anything with the system that we have here, we have approximately 70 kilometers of cycling trails in the region. With the new system, with the study, it would be an increase to 230, 240 kilometers. In other words, recommendations in the report tell us that we should increase the trails. Congestion, everybody lives through that. Acadie, Champlain, there's traffic congestion on a daily basis. What we wanted to do with our system is to reduce the traffic congestion, or at least to keep it the same with the existing infrastructure. So maintaining it with the growth, 200,000 citizens growth. We have to educate people so that they take public transport more, so that they carpool more, that they walk more. In other words, in 2040, if we work it that way, we'll increase the traffic congestion just a little bit instead of having it. In other words, there would be, for example, a difference of 20% between not doing anything and implementing the plan. There would also be a question of looking at the average trip lengths. if we don't do anything, we see that the increase will be pretty sharp. If we choose the preferred scenario, we'll see that there'll be a reduction. Here we see that the annual greenhouse gas emissions, right now it's 0.6 to 0.7 on a daily basis. If we don't do anything, it'll increase to 0.8. If we work on the recommendations of the study, we can reduce basically the greenhouse gas emissions and it'll improve our environment. So the recommended actions, basically there are three measures: active transportation, public transport, and then roads. Why do we put roads in the third place? Is because when we're talking about roads, we always think about a car. So we want to have active transportation first, public transit second, and then roads in the third place. So we wanted to make sure that these systems were basically balanced so that they were equal to the car. So if we had the car up front, up first, it would be difficult to balance it out. So examples of recommendations, we see here that it's the future. We can see that there's a lot of connections, and there are a lot of recommendations for improvements of problematic points. And with this document, we have suggestions for recommendations in order to improve the situation. Couple of improvements: improve trail connections and close active network gaps, implement intersection improvements. We received a lot of comments from citizens concerning the intersections because there's a lot of conflicts, many cars. So what can we do to improve the system so that the walker will feel more comfortable at an intersection? Implement complete street high priority corridors. So what we want to do is we want to change corridors. For example, the Champlain, we want to maybe separate one lane so that it could be a bike lane, and we can have a public transit. So we say, what are we going to do with the car? Well, what we want to do is make it a little more difficult for the car to travel. These are the recommendations to improve the roads. This is basically to complete make it more comprehensive. You see the different colors, extreme, average, or low. And it gives us the recommendations as to what to do or to look at what can be converted to make things better. There are basically three phases, like I said. We see that in the report. We have the recommendations, which are basically short to 5 years, 15 years, and then to 30 years. And here we can see examples as to how we can make ways more comprehensive, where we separate the vehicles from the pedestrians and from the bicycles. So there are different opportunities, but in the report we have 10 or 15 different examples. Then now we go to public transit. Public transit, there's a good concentration on this study on public transport, and there's also a study with a 10-year strategy in order to improve the system. And here, the question is the airport. There's no public transit to the airport, so that's something that has to be added. They want, there are different other recommendations. Public transport, that would be on a 15-minute basis, rotation. There are some examples I'd like to share. Implementation of the 10-year transit strategy. There would be a relocation of transit terminals. In other words, specifically for the city of Moncton, they want to make it more central. They're also saying the same thing for Dieppe. They would think that Champlain is more central, but they're saying that it would be more central for the downtown area than what it is now. One of the suggestions to improve public transit, as you see on the picture, it would be a specific lane for public transit at the intersections. In other words, it could pass in front of the all the vehicles, and then the lights will give the public transit priority to cross the intersection, and then the vehicles. So it gives the opportunity of the bus, for example, to go ahead of the other cars. And also on the bottom, you see that it's a recommendation to maybe look at a more central terminal in the city of Moncton. Then now we go to the roads. You can see in roads, Moncton Riverview, there's Imperial, there are collector roads. There are many recommendations on this, recommendations that we can look at. Maybe this is more in Moncton, but it's the bridge to Riverview. It's very important in order to have better connectivity to Riverview and Dieppe. And also it gives a good connectivity to Riverview, from Riverview to the Trans-Canada to go to Nova Scotia. Maybe it's going to reduce the traffic in Moncton, but it's also going to help to move citizens who want to go from one point to another, Dorchester or Amherst or in Nova Scotia. There are also corridors that were identified, corridors in Dieppe, and I just wanted to show, like in Moncton, there are corridors in the north. And after 40 years, they're going to say it's very important to identify these corridors to make sure that if there's development in those regions, that they know that there's going to be an important road going through there. Examples of recommendations is to start the Highway 15, the Wheeler Boulevard, the Corridor 15. That's 15 that goes from the airport to Trinity. That's the Wheeler. There's a lot of infrastructure that is being recommended in this section. They're also recommending to add another lane in both directions. So you're going to be asking the questions. Well, we're going to make things more difficult for the car, but at the same time, we have to be realist. It's important for a car, and broad roads are important for a community, not just for people, but also for merchandise. And the Trans-Canada at McLaughlin Road, the interchange, specifically the last point is the bridge, the Riverview Dieppe bridge with a connection with the transit line and AT connection is very important. There should be bike lanes and sidewalks also for this connectivity. We kind of failed on the Gunningsville Bridge right now because we can't ride a bike on the bridge. We have to ride the bike on the sidewalk. It wasn't built to accommodate bicycle riding. This here we see the Wheeler Corridor. So the plan implementation, really it's for the basically next 30 years. There's going to be short-term, medium-term, and long-term planning. And we'd like to establish, set up a committee and do the plan, bring the recommendations back to you and have joint projects. Considerations, the council should accept the study, set up a jurisdictional implementation committee. There would be a committee set up with representatives of the three councils and the province. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes, there will be a few questions. Any questions from the councillors? Mr. Beliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. I know that this question might be a trick question, but you mentioned the percentage of the people who use public transit. Do you have statistics for other urban centers in the Maritimes, St. John, Fredericton, or Halifax? Do you have any way of knowing whether we're behind other municipalities, or are we on average with them. We're not really behind. It should. Mr. Thibodeau, please speak into the mic because the interpreters have a difficulty hearing you. Thank you. Firstly, it's not problematic at the moment. There's no problem, but it's activities that are in question. Will people use the system? In this report, there are sections that indicate that we were compared to other cities of the same size. We're not bad, pretty close. Others are doing a better job than us. We have recommendations in the document for public transport, and it would be better for our citizens. So you already have recommendations, plans, activities, and ways and methods used elsewhere that work and that have produced good results. So we're not reinventing the wheel. No, not at all. There are ways to increase the efficiency of the usage. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Beliveau. Mr. Gadet. I noted that our neighbors to the west, you've had a lot of difficulty with discussions to be building roundabouts, and they have a good reputation, so I congratulate you. I note that in Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island and Quebec, we use a lot of roundabouts, not only at intersections, but to approach viaducts. Do you have any particular recommendations for this concept economically, for the efficiency of traffic? There are a lot of advantages. Of course, there are advantages of using roundabouts. In a report, we have intersections where we want to build them. Excuse me. A roundabout, yes, you're right. In our recommendations, we want to change intersections to be able to build roundabouts. In Nova Scotia, they like to do that going from the highways to intersections. It's still a bit new in the Maritimes. In our report, we do have recommendations in that sense to modify intersections in Dieppe, Moncton, and Riverview, and add a lot more. Do you feel that there is more of a general acceptance from the public? Yes, of course. The comments we have received on the roundabout in Killam is very positive. People really like it. They like the system. It's not for every intersection, but for those where there are a lot of issues. So there are less accidents in that way, but it's very accepted in our region at the moment. Other questions from councillors? If not, thank you for your presentation, and we shall continue to follow your progress in all our communities as we go ahead, go towards 2040, and we'll continue to work together. Thank you. The next item is the presentation on the participatory budget. Mr. Richard. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to give you this update on the participatory budget. As you know, phase one, collective collection of ideas is finished on July 4th, and we were very happy. We had a good campaign, a lot of participation from the community, and we collected 108 idea propositions during our campaign. We had good ideas from everywhere and all kinds of ideas. One of our challenges was that some people thought it was an exercise of the budget that we had 2 years ago, which was a consultation process, but this one is more of a commitment level. So in this phase, collection of ideas, we've recruited people, drafters of the budget, and to continue to phase two. At the moment, we're in phase two, the development of projects. We have about 20 people who have met the challenge during the summer. We've had 12 meetings of 2 or 3 hours each in order to hear all these ideas and to choose projects. So between June 25th and 29th September was our objective, and these meetings are facilitated as well by residents. With respect to the ideas, we received a total of 108. Some of them were the same. And essentially, we had ideas on infrastructure and other services and equipment as well. So we have a fifth meeting tomorrow night, and there are about 40 projects. So it looks good for the future. As far as the next steps, the finalists of the final projects will be filed at the end of September, and the vote will take place mid-November and the beginning of December. And at that time, we will unveil the winning projects. The voting phase, as such, will take place during 3 weeks from November 13th to December 5th. People will be able to vote online or in person. We'll have stands a little bit everywhere in the municipality, the Dieppe market, and other places, and we'll give details as we get closer. Who can vote? People 11 years or older, residents of Dieppe can vote as well. As far as details go, you can consult www.dieppe.ca. And that is the update I wanted to give you. Any questions? Thank you for this update. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Béliveau, thank you, Your Worship. When you collected these ideas, were they about activities or services that already existed, or? Yes, it's part of the list that you received. Some activities were not kept because they were already existing before. So some people thought that there were activities or services that did not exist, but they do. Yes, we have projects, programs for the city, installations that people did not know were there. So we educated them about that. Your Worship, we have an update this evening, and it shows us the commitment and devotion of the people who participated, all the residents, the facilitators. Everybody has done excellent work on this. Thank you. Anyone else? Other question? Comments? No? Therefore, I thank you, Mr. Richard. The next item is 7.3, Mr. Richard. No, 7.4, Mr. Richard. Another presentation. This is the renewal of the strategic plan. This is another update, and to present to you where we are at the moment with the strategic plan. Marc Leblanc is with me tonight. He was one of the two consultants on this project. So the objective is to tell you where we're at and what steps we've been taking. So for the context, what is a strategic plan? We talk about a municipal plan. So the strategic plan essentially is a short-term document on 5 years, and it allows us, the administration, to make choices and make decisions, and it also measures our progress. We've been doing that for a few years to measure our success as well, and to communicate to the community what our priorities are. So essentially, this is what we have here with our strategic plan. How did we arrive here? The council wanted to renew its plan in the fall 2014. We started discussions. We wanted to consult the community as well on our municipal plan. We've had a new approach and tried to do exercises that would allow us to get the information for the municipal plan and the strategic plan as well, to get pertinent information. So we've finished this exercise, which we called Imagine Dieppe, and this report is being drafted. As far as the strategic plan for the city of Dieppe, it's a living document which is revised often. And the documents you have received, the renewal of the strategic plan that we're looking at now, will be in its whole a strategic document which will be more precise than it has been in the past years. We have secondary plans that we had since 2004 and 2002, but we will lean on those documents to revise our municipal plan now. So that's where we are with the renewal of our 2015 plan. In the proposition of our plan, we have 5 themes, 17 strategies, and the number of objectives will depend on the exercise in September. City staff is working at the moment on secondary plans and the vision, and to add smart objectives which are measurable, which we will integrate to our strategy. For the other slides, I will ask Marc Leblanc to present these themes and strategies. Good evening and welcome, Mr. Leblanc. I will take a few minutes of your time to present the 5 themes you have in front of you and the strategies for each one. One theme is about the community development of a green and sustainable city, economic development, infrastructure, and finally participation and commitment of the public. And you will see, I will give it to you in alphabetical order and not in priority order. The axis on community development and healthy city, we have 5 strategies. As Luc mentioned, it originates in different consultation exercises and work of the municipal staff during the past few months. The proposition you have before you is to develop and promote the blossoming of the Francophone community and to allow for Acadian pride, to develop and encourage recreative activities which are inclusive. So we want to include as many people as possible, to develop a rich program which is diversified, relating to arts and culture, and to become a model of a healthy community and well-being. So those are the strategies for the community development axis. The axis that relates to the environment, we have two strategies: to protect our green spaces and continue the development of parks and trails that add value to nature and diversity of the environment in Dieppe, and to encourage best practices to ensure sustainable development. And like I said a while ago, it's in this spirit and of other plans that the city possesses already. For the third axis, development, economic development and prosperity, we want to develop a favorable commercial development with expansion Dieppe. The two can go ahead hand in hand to continue fiscal politics which are responsible and to maintain a balance, and to continue the densification of the downtown, as we had mentioned a while ago, with public transportation, and to develop, to increase the population with a strategy, a demographic strategy. We have heard that it's not the role of the city to do a lot of these things, but the municipality can collaborate and give a hand to realize these strategies. The access on quality infrastructure and development, we've had interesting discussions. Firstly, we want to maintain the existing infrastructures in good condition, to improve the existing infrastructures and add new ones that will answer to the future needs of the municipality. We want to increase the territory and to continue collaborating closely with neighboring municipalities on common files. Transportation is one of them. Finally, the participation and commitment of the public to continue to increase the commitment of citizens in decision-making, to continue innovation, diversification of communication tools with the public. Within these consultations, people said they wanted to be informed, and we also want to tell them what we're doing as a city. So we want to continue to innovate with new means to communicate with them, and to continue a transparency approach and accountability of elected officials. So those are strategies to which we want to add more content, which are the objectives, and Luc will come back and speak of the next steps of the plan, which with the staff we can continue to add details to the plan. Thank you. So, to continue, since June, the staff is working very hard to elaborate the objectives with each strategy, and tonight we're giving you the information as well. We wanted to give you this presentation, and there will be a permanent meeting of the permanent committee, and there will be more dialogues, and we will want more of your input. So before the end of August, if you have objectives, we could include them in the documents before the September meeting. In September, what we propose is a joint meeting with administration and the council, and we want to find a way to prioritize strategies that are proposed here and objectives that will come from them. We have 17 strategies and 100 or so objectives, so we want to prioritize them. And then we can make adjustments later before we take decisions. So that is our objective. I should have mentioned perhaps that what we want to do is also send the information that you have received to the participants of Imagine Dieppe. They've come here, they've given a lot of time to this, so we want to go back to them and tell them this is what we have. Do you have comments? And ask them to make a prioritization as well, respecting these strategies, so that we can have discussions later. Then we want to put into place this content in October. We want to adopt the plan and put everything into place afterwards to report in January 2016. So this is tonight's presentation. So we have two questions for you. Do you have any questions and comments with respect to the access proposals with respect to strategy or specific objectives? We will be able to discuss it. If you have anything to communicate to us, you can reach us during the week by email or whatever. So that finishes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Do you have any questions, members of the council? Madame Delaire. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment. To give a good feedback, I think it would be useful to have the strategic plans in the past that we could compare with. Did we have any reports that we had started that had fallen through the cracks? Thank you. Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to see this plan as it was drafted. As for activities, when I look at the strategy C4 to increase the population with a democratic growth strategy, I ask myself the following question. Does the city of Dieppe, should the city of Dieppe have a policy? We should get together and discuss this. It's been years now that people in New-Brunswick asked the province to establish a policy for the families, and it's never been done. The community in Dieppe could take leadership and be the foregoer to encourage people in the city of Dieppe. Thank you. It's noted. That's the type of objective that we could add in the strategy under C4 to have a policy by a specific date. Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. Any other comments or questions from members of council? If not, once again, thank you for your presentation. And we're looking forward to seeing updates and further developments and to see our community being developed in a strategic way and also with a vision. Thank you. Questions from the public? Thank you. For the adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 13th, 2015. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Minutes of July 13th have been adopted. Then we have a proposition for the adoption of the special council meeting held on July 28th, moved by Councillor Brito, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. Any questions? Yes, a special meeting. I may have said regular, but it's a special meeting of council. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Brideau. All those in favor? It's the opposite, Brideau and then Leblanc. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. If there are no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The minutes are accepted as presented. Item 10, 10.1, Mr. Melanson. Members of council, good evening. The first file is a dangerous building. It is recommended that staff in charge should have this building demolished. It's at 328 Champlain. It's indicated in the resolution. After evaluation, the council is asked to take a position to go ahead. Further reading, Mr. Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. The council authorized the personnel designated and responsible of this matter to have the building situated at 328 Champlain Street and having PID 00672758 demolished and to undertake the necessary steps to be reimbursed the demolition caused by the property owner pursuant to the provisions set out in the Municipalities Act. I so move. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Nolan. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is adopted as presented. Next item, 10.2.1. This is a project of construction of a project of storm sewer upgrade and trail on Ruffin Street. So we have two submissions. Morse's Landscaping is recommended for an amount of $60,996 plus taxes for the trail and the storm sewer system. So this is for your authorization of council tonight. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Bellevue, please. Further to the directive adopted July 13, 2015, the council approved the trail construction project between Ruffin Street and Chartersville Road and the upgrading of the storm sewer system on the land identified under PID 70384631, located between civic addresses 779 and 781 Chartersville Road, to Morrison's Landscaping at the price quoted at $60,996 plus taxes, and that the said expenditure be funded from account number 3370127610, General Cabinet Budget, Trail Network. I so move. Moved by Councillor Bellevue, seconded by Councillor Nolan. For the question, Mr. Gadet. This company who won do we know this company? Does it have experience? Yes, we've had experience with this contractor here in the city because I noticed that the other company has always done very good work for a good price. So I would ask you to follow the course of this project, and who will supervise it? The recreation installation services are responsible to supervise this. I'm a little bit worried with Public Works for the construction of the sewer system. It will be a team. Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is adopted as presented. Item number 10.2.2. between the City Hall and the Arts and Culture Center, there's a lane that recognizes a certain family. There are elements in place for this resolution to be considered by Council. It is recommended that we identify it as Allée du Patrimoine Lane to continue to recognize entities until the council judges it necessary. It was a recommendation that was done a couple years ago as well. For the reading of the resolution, Councillor Thibodeau. The council accepts that the following name be assigned to the corridor situated between the City Hall and the Arts and Cultural Center, Allée du Patrimoine Lane. Moved and seconded by Councillor Dallaire. We should include lane as well. I said it. No? C'est Allée du Patrimoine Lane. So that's for the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is adopted as presented. Item 10.3, engineering. A little while ago, we had a presentation from Mr. Thibodeau and Mr. Desjardins. Council is implicated as well for the past 2 years. So this is the official adoption of the report of Destination 2040 and to continue the work. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. That the Dieppe Municipal Council adopt the Regional Sustainable Transportation Master Plan Destination 2040 prepared by HRD Inc. and accepts also to create a work committee comprised of representatives of the City of Dieppe, the City of Moncton, and the Town of Riverview, and which will be mandated to outline a work plan based on the recommendations from the study, which will be submitted to the approval of the municipal councils during the 2015-2016 winter season. I so move. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leblanc. On the question, Mr. Béliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. The request for public consultation was asked for during the preliminary exercise. I would like to encourage that this practice continues. It's very important for this work, for this second working group, that all the interveners, stakeholders have their say. This is an observation, Your Worship, that the representation of Dieppe will keep in mind this public consultation. It's noted. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The resolution is adopted as presented.
10.4 nominations. The request to identify the people who will be sitting, the citizens. 5 people are being suggested for the creation of this. So the council needs to move it and to adopt it. So it's now for reading of the resolution. So just a reminder why this committee. It's a situation, it's an appeals committee. The citizens who are facing something that they judge being not appropriate. Maybe there's a question of their rights, so it's a question of appeals basically, but all questions concerning dogs. Yes, it's dog control. So for the reading of the resolution, Mr. Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to the resolution adopted April 28th, 2014 under Section 7 of Bylaw S-6 2012 relating to dog control, that Council appoints the following members of the Appeals Committee. Yvon Cobo, citizen. Paul Thébault, citizen. And Angela Jardine, citizen. Chantal Frenette, veterinary. And Derek Galland, person certified in dog behavior. So moved. Moved by Councillor Leblanc, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question. No questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. 10.5, organizational performance. 10.51, the Council adopted a mandate for the governance on public transit a couple of months ago. Following the evolution of the issue and the work that has been done, members of Council sat at the committee. So tonight we are being asked to adopt the mandates, the terms of reference of this, and you have Annex A and B, and we can go to them if you want, but that's the principle of the resolution tonight. Mr. Cormier for the reading of the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Municipal Council accept the changes proposed to the terms of reference for the Public Transit Governance Committee as outlined in Annexes A and B, annexed to the memorandum dated July 30, 2015. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Dallaire. On the question. On the question, Mr. Beliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. The information that we were given in preparation for the vote tonight brings me to mention this. We have a working group or a working committee that is basically representatives of the City of Moncton that are making recommendations to the Council of the Municipality, who is the owner of the service. It seems to me bizarre because there is not equal representation to permit an open discussion, and it seems that some recommendations will be influencing the decision. So I feel that it's too bad that we haven't been able to have a more equal representation between the different communities. It's a fact. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Madame Dallaire, please. Point of clarification. Did I understand properly? Did I read that the recommendations come from the 3 municipal councils for ratification? So it gives more authority to municipal council to vote and to decide, whereas before it was the committee where it was decided. Right now, there is more supervision from the different municipal councils. Okay, maybe I'd have to leave the chair, unless you give me permission to make comments. With your permission, I'll make comments. Otherwise, I'll leave the room or leave the chair and somebody else can see. I find it really too bad in the final report and the recommendation is that there was a portion of the Dillon report concerning public representation at this committee was completely ignored. The users of the system, which would add enormously and which should probably make for a better balance with 3 elected members, 1 Dieppe, 1 Riverview, 1 Moncton. It would be a way of balancing out and making things more balanced. And if we could have 2 users of the system, it would be a better way of having a governance. That is my comment. So now I take the mayor's chair back. So if my comment brings forth other comments or questions, they can be discussed. If not, we'll go to the resolution and the vote on it. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. A nay from Councillor Beliveau. I don't vote, so I will not say anything, but I believe that my position is fairly clear. So the resolution is carried. Item 10.6, planning and development. In the request of annexation, this is a formal resolution to council to request. So the resolution is here. If this is carried, we will be able to go to the next step. For the reading of the resolution, Councillor Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Dieppe Municipal Council requests Honorable Brian Kenny, Minister of the Department of Environment and Local Government of New-Brunswick, to annex to the City of Dieppe territory a portion of the unincorporated territory identified in Schedule A. So moved. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Leblanc on the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. 10.6.2. So you have before you, following a bylaw on heavy equipment, it was adopted possibly to have a grandfather clause. We've developed a process so that people can partake in this privilege. So the next two resolutions, there are two people, two different groups who have put in the request and they're asking for this grandfather clause. So the first one is for a heavy vehicle at the 123 Gould Street to have this exemption. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Councillor Brideau. Point of order. Yes, in the reading, just for the posterity qualification, could we say further to the directive of grandfathered clauses? Yes, maybe we could read that into the resolution, Mr. Brideau. Acquired rights, further to the directive adopted on July 13th of acquired rights, further to the directive adopted July 13th, 2013 concerning acquired rights or grandfather rights, that the Municipal Council accepted the recommendation of the personnel of the Planning and Development to recognize a non-conforming use relating to the parking of a heavy vehicle on the property situated at 123 Gould Street and having PID number 00670323. So moved. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Dallaire. On the question, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried. Now for the second case, 10.6.3, same situation. Councillor Brideau, if you could read the resolution and add the same thing, the same term. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the Municipal Council accept the recommendation of the personnel of the Planning and Development Department concerning acquired rights to recognize a non-conforming use relating to the parking of a heavy vehicle, of the heavy vehicles and equipment identified in Schedule B, annexed to the memorandum dated July 22, 2015 on the property situated at 2160 Amiro Street and having PID 00953844. 2015, yes. And also acquired rights should be inserted. That the Municipal Council accept concerning acquired rights the recommendation of the personnel. So is everybody okay with that? And this is seconded by Councillor Dallaire. On the question, Mr. Béliveau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Acquired rights, I had understood that it was for individuals who could demonstrate that they had been in operation prior to 1978. The documents that we've received indicate that these vehicles have been parked there since 1983. Another point also is if the individual has at page 239, at 2D in the questionnaire, in the form that was completed by the requester, did you obtain a written approval from the city or from the former planning department of the city of Moncton. And the individual says no. And then at 3C, has a permit been obtained to park the equipment? There, the answer is yes. So he indicates that he's received somebody from the planning department and somebody from the city of Dieppe who authorized an individual to park his heavy equipment after that meeting on the site. So this individual did that individual receive a written authorization or not? And the way the request was put in, it seems that the parking started in 1983. Mr. Frenette, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to answer Mr. Béliveau's questions, yes, we've had some discussions with the lawyer. And as you see in the report, when you look at Section 2 and Section 3, the present-day owner, who is the son of Mr. Gauvin, Mr. Ulysse Gauvin, in Section 3. So the son, it's since 1983, but the father was on that site, according to the information, according to the affidavit that they signed, was there since 1968. So there was continuity. Now, we haven't been able to validate that the fact that there was a stoppage in warehousing or parking between 1968 and 1979. So there seems to have been continuity. Now, concerning the second part, if the first part was answered properly, we haven't been able to make sure with Ms. George Hemington, with the Greater Moncton Planning Department, but with Madame Galland, once again, we cannot validate this information. Now, there is a difference. Once again, this is information. It's hearsay. We have no real written information. So even if there had been information that had been given viva voce, we need written proof. So people who would have given this verbal approval, we cannot consider this as being a valid authority. So, Mr. Major, the date that we're using in the 1968, and without and this continuity, without stoppage of usage, this is what we're basing ourselves on. Yes. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Godet. Sorry, I was distracted by the question of time, but because it's true that the Gauvins have been there since God knows how long. But are there other requests for recognition of non-conforming use? Mr. Frenette, tonight we have two. There is another request where we met the owner, but with the review of the bylaws, zoning bylaws, is to have an acquired right recognized for a agricultural vehicle, but kind of snow removal. He's using it as a snow removal equipment, because at that point, at the ad hoc committee, there had been no mention of it, and there had been no mention of it publicly either. With the bylaw review, we figured that it's something that should be brought forth separately, because we received a lot of requests this winter, and with this request, we figured that these people filled out the forms also, so we'll bring it to you, and we'll study it then. So the short answer is yes, but it won't be necessary to be presented to council due to the changes in the zoning bylaws. Okay, thank you for the answers and the questions. If there are any more questions, if there are no more questions, those in favor signify by saying aye, contrary minded nay. and the request for recognition of non-conforming use is accepted with the explanation. Human Resources, Mr. Melanson. So tonight, as we do annually, is the renewal of the group insurance plan for the city of Dieppe. Recommended that Assumption Life, according to the recommendations outlined in the letter dated 23rd of June, submitted by Gauguin Champlain Financial Services for the period for the price of $1,199,014, and also for accidental life insurance with RBC Insurance at a monthly rate of 0.028 per $1,000 for the period ending August 1st, 2016. So there's a reduction in certain activities, an increase in the others, but in general, it's always for approval tonight. For the reading of the resolution, Mr. Nolan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council authorized the renewal of the group insurance plan for the City of Dieppe employees and members of the Municipal Council with Assumption Life, as per the recommendations outlined in the letter dated 23rd, 2015, submitted by Gauguin Champlain Financial Services, Inc., for the period from August 1st, 2015 to July 31st, 2016, at the cost of $1,199,014, and that Council authorize the renewal of the accidental life insurance with RBC Insurance at a monthly rate of 0.028 per $1,000 for the period ending August 1st, 2016. So moved. Moved by Councillor Nolan, seconded by Councillor Godet. On the question. On the question, Mr. Béliveau. Thank you, Your Worship. The information that I would like to get, maybe I could get it afterwards, I note that the total number of personnel from 2012, 13, 14, that's page 256. They're saying how many men and women, or I should say women and men, who are hired by the municipality. The figure is increasing. I thought that between 2012 and 2013, there had been a reduction of staff. There had been rationalization of staff in the municipality, but the figure seems to increase. 165 to 174, and 165 to 174. And then to 198 in 2014. So the increase is it so significant that we have 33 staff members more than we had from 2012 to 2014. What page? 256. $198 participants versus 175 in 2014. I think we have to strike out 174 in 2013 and 155 in 2012. Very quickly, I know that there was a planning service that was set up in 2013. So there were a few people to set up that team as requested. And in 2014, the second fire hall hired 16 new firefighters. That's my first reaction, but I mean, with the others, if you want, I can give you more details later. No, that gives me ideas. Retired staff, do they partake in certain benefits? No. Okay, thank you. Very good question. I was going to consult with the city manager on that question, so thank you for having raised it. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noted that at page 251 in the memorandum, we're talking about a decrease of 3.56 And in the letter that was sent to Madame Savoie by Joël Drolin, we're talking about a reduction of 4.48%. So how come there's a difference? What is... Mr. Drolin was supposed to be here, and this morning he had to stay home for a medical reason. So I'll have to come back to you on this. I understand your question. It doesn't reflect the reality of the memorandum, so I'll have to get back to you on that. So that will be clarified. So if there are any more questions, we go to the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Resolution is carried, but there will need to have clarifications presented to Council. 10.8, purchase snowblower. It's a good time to talk about it. Well, yeah, maybe it's not the best time, but we have to talk about it now so that we can be ready. There'll be a tender. You are asked to authorize the purchase of a snowblower for the amount of for $102,984. So that's for consideration. So for the resolution, Councillor Godet, s'il vous plaît, please. That Council authorize the purchase of a new Type 2 phases detachable snow blower for the Public Works Department from Vol Incorporated, pursuant to their proposal, dated July 28, 2015, at the cost of $102,984 plus HST, and that this expenditure be funded from account number 1-2-35-60-2565, Equipment Program, General Operating Budget. So moved. Moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Nolan. On the question, Mr. Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. Could we specify that this is adding a piece of equipment, or Mr. Saint-Jules, please? Good evening. This is an addition. We had just 2 snowblowers. Now we'll have 3. Well, we hope not having to need them. Monsieur Godet. The Vol, if I understand, has its own generator on the structure. Yes, it's integrated. It's as opposed to the other proposals. Which could have been yes, all 4 tenders met the criteria, so these were comparable pieces of equipment. The Vol's specs were superior, so Vol specs, one of the specifications was they had to be independent pieces of equipment, so you hadn't mentioned any option concerning connections for generators to the vehicle. The snowblowers are attachments. It's going to be connected to different charging implements, the same as the big one that we have now. I didn't understand the last part. The snowblower will be connected to chargers. It is not the charger that is going to be operating the snowblower. The snowblower has its own motor. Yeah, that was my question. The advantages of not having this model that obtain its energy from the charger. No, it was better to have it the way we ordered it. No other questions? So, for the vote, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Carried as presented.
Next item, municipal bylaws. Every now and then we must revise the words and composition of council members. So in the last decade, council asked us to see if there should be changes made to these wards. So what you have here is a proposal of a bylaw that would give a better balance within the wards and to consider future growth for the city of Dieppe. So this composition of the wards would better reflect the wards and the population of Dieppe and allow for future growth. So after reading tonight, public will have access to the map as well. So this is for first and second reading tonight. So for first reading, Councillor Cormier, please, by title only. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw number 82, 2015, a bylaw of the City of Dieppe respecting wards and the composition of the council. I so move in first reading. Moved by Councillor Cormier, seconded by Councillor Gaudette for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. This bylaw is accepted in first reading by title only, so we shall proceed to second reading by title only. Bylaw number 82, 2015, a bylaw of the City of Dieppe respecting wards and the composition of the council. I so move the second reading by title. Thank you, Mr. Cormier. Seconded by Mr. Gaudette for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The bylaw number 82, 2015 is accepted in first reading. The last time we changed the composition of the council was in 2000 for the 2001 election that created the positions of general councillors. The next item is a notice of motion, nothing received. Are there any notices of motion? No. Then we will ask for inquiries, announcements by members of council, starting with, who did I start with last year? I'll start with Mr. Bedivo. Thank you, Your Worship. I have two questions this evening. Has the dimensions of the garbage cans changed? Have we received requests to change the dimensions of the garbage cans that we put out? Because I received a few requests for information. Some people said that the dimensions had to be smaller, and I saw some on the streets that were smaller, and I went on the website and there was no information there. I think it's something that was in the media for the city of Moncton and the staff there. So these are not the contractors, it's not Faro. So I don't think here that our contractors and subcontractors have never complained. Thank you. The second question, Your Worship. Could we look at the bike rails in Rotary Park at Saint-Arsène, because there was one that was taken elsewhere for repairs, and I think it still does not answer to all the requests that we receive from the youth that go to the park to play, and they arrive by bicycle. In the future, do you think we could install bike racks that are safe for the youth when they're in the park? Thank you. I was happy to see that in the list of projects in our participatory budget, there was an item respecting not only schools, but in general on bikes and bike racks. Thank you. Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have any questions, but I wanted to make a wish for the Fête des Acadiens, which will be very soon. So I want to wish a good holiday to all Acadians. Thank you. Councillor Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. I have 2 points. I would like to thank the citizens who take Acadie Amiro Street in the march for their patience. As far as I know, there have been no accidents or major damages for all this traffic. And I would like to invite all citizens to come to visit the kite festival at Dover Park this weekend. It will be very interesting. Thank you. I know we have a delegation from the city of Dieppe in France for the first time in a while. So we will be happy to see these folks again from Normandy. Mr. Gadet, I would like to say that next Sunday we have a ceremony to commemorate the raid of Dieppe in Normandy. And in Dieppe in Acadie, the ceremony with the veterans will take place on the Sunday closest to the 19th, and this year it will be next Sunday, the 16th, I believe. And I would like to wish a good festival of kites and a good Fête de l'Acadie to everyone. It's a new record, I think. Mrs. Dallaire. Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to say this evening. Thank you, Mrs. Dallaire. Councillor Nolan. Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to know if we have received complaints at the Starbucks on Rue du Collège. The angle of the street in front, with all the trees there, it's very difficult to exit safely, especially if there are youth on the sidewalks and bicycles. I'm afraid there could be an accident. Perhaps we should send a city team to see if it could be made a little bit safer, opening it up. And if people follow the media, we see that we have had a lot of thefts in vehicles in the Kodiak region. So I would like to remind everybody not to leave any valuable items in their vehicles and to lock them at night or when you're absent from your vehicle. And to ensure that nothing is visible if you leave anything in your car. And since there's no meeting next week, I would like to wish a good Pride Festival that will take place next week. Thank you, Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. One of the residents asked me, and it's for the chief of the fire chief. And this person asked me if at Sainte-Thérèse School, if there was a fire, would your fire truck be able to go around the school? It could be checked. Thank you. The way it's situated now, we can't go around the school. That's the standard in the city of Dieppe, but no, there are no criteria with respect to access on 4 sides of a building. But the need is to be able to get everywhere around the building with water. There is no code or regulation saying that the truck has to be there. Only the equipment and personnel, the staff, we have to be able to access the front entrance. But for the truck, there are no criteria. Anything else? No, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Leblanc. Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 points to mention tonight. Rapidly, my patience lasts 4 minutes. I have a bit of time. Do we have a service to take people to the Dover Park for the Kite Festival? A shuttle service? A shuttle service that we could offer this year for people to go there without having to park there? Mr. Bugeaud or Mr. Cormier, that's on the committee, could answer that. So we'll come back to you with an answer. Mr. Cormier? No. I can't remember. I'm getting older and I forget things. But I think it's been part of discussions to have a shuttle service for August 15th. Since we have concerts in Aristide Arthur G. Leblanc, yes, we'll have shuttle service there. So you have an Ask Kodiak Transpo to accommodate people for concerts? That answers my question. Secondly, the retention pool on Fox Creek Road. Who's responsible for that maintenance? Right now, it's just a hole filled with mud. It was built, but it wasn't finished. There's no grass. Nothing's been done since. Mr. Desjardins, do you have an answer? If possible. Mr. Knowles, can you come to the podium, please? Public Works is responsible for the maintenance. Do you have any intention of finishing it? There's no grass to cut there. It's just rocks and mud. It's never been finished. We'll do a follow-up to see if the developer has finished the work. And if it's finished, we will see about maintenance at that point. And lastly, what's happening with the repairs on Fox Creek Road near the trail? We still have pipes with blue water that's coming out of the ditch. Repairs that have been done in the street, only part of it has been repaved. Is there an engineer that should be on site responsible for the project? He missed it. He was blind to some things. It doesn't look very professional to me. It's not going well, or is it going well? We had challenges with that project, with the developer, with the schedule right now. It's in place to do the work this week for the final repairs, and we hope to have asphalt put down next week. So it will go ahead. Okay. Thank you. I have nothing to add except to wish everybody a very happy 15th of August and a good kite festival, and to tell everyone that ceremonies of commemoration of Dieppe will take place in the raid on Dieppe will take place on Sunday at 2 p.m. Thank you. On the site here, just in front of the memorial. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.